How will Thomas Frank set up and line up at Tottenham? That is what I'm going to be discussing in today's video, because I've put together a side using our current players that I believe will best suit the Danish head coach heading into next season. Obviously, we'll make a few signings, but even though we will, I think we'll see this exact 11 quite a few times next season. I believe it plays to the strengths of the players in it, and it will really suit Thomas Frank. So without further ado, let's get cracking with this knacking. And formation-wise, I expect to see a 4-2-3-1 for most of next season. At Brentford, he'd occasionally switch to a 5-2-3 with a back five and an extra centre-back against the top opposition to make his side more defensively solid. But on most occasions, he'd set up with a 4-2-3-1 unless he was coming up against the top opposition. And that's what I expect he will do at Spurs. 2 centre-backs, 2 fullbacks, a double pivot in midfield, the number 10, the 2 wide midfielders / wingers, and the advanced forward. So I've put together a team using the 4-2-3-1. Starting off in goal, Vicario. Now, when you look at Brentford's stats, they're up there with the most touches in their own box, especially from the goalkeeper. And then when you look at Vicario's stats, he's up there in the Premier League table for errors made by goalkeepers and giving the ball away. So you think, how is it going to work under Thomas Frank? But under Ange Postecoglou, Vicario playing out from the back, it was all about short passes on the floor and he'd get caught out. Whereas under Thomas Frank, it's about exploiting space further on, dragging opposition onto you and freeing up space further up the pitch. So if he is under loads of pressure, he's not going to be forced to play a short pass or a pass on the ground. He will be able to go long and look for the options up at the top of the pitch. And I believe this will really suit Vicario. I think the amount of mistakes that he's made playing out from the back will hugely go down because he won't be forced to play a pass 5 yards under extreme pressure or when we've got an overload. And I really think he's a player who will excel at Spurs. When I look at Vicario, I see 2 huge attributes and positives and 2 huge negatives that let him down. The 2 huge positives for Vicario for me are his shot stopping and his reflexes. And the 2 worst attributes that he's got are his distribution and commanding of his box. Now, the distribution thing, if he's forced to go long occasionally, if he doesn't have to play out every single time, the errors will go down there, and whilst the commanding of the box might not improve, that's already one big problem with Vicario gone. So you've got 3 huge positives for him as a goalkeeper then, and 1 negative. And I think when you look at how good of a shot stopper he is, how good his reflexes are, I take that all day long. Maybe we get another keeper down the line. Maybe Frank might want one this summer. But for me, I think Frank will get the best out of Vicario. That is what this man is very good at doing. Playing with the cards that he's dealt. Looking at the back 4, centre-back partnership, I have gone with Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero. Right, obvious. But I do think we will see Kevin Danso quite a few times. I think he can really be that Ethan Pinnock at Tottenham that Frank had at Brentford. That no-nonsense, solid defender. Never going to do any flashy stuff, but 7 or 8 out of 10 pretty much every single week. Solid at the back, good in the air, heading the ball away. So I think we'll see Danso quite a few times, but I do think we'll see Romero and Van der Ven. Van der Ven, I did a video on it the other week, whilst I still think he'll be great. What is his best attribute? What is his biggest strength? It's his recovery pace and recovery runs. And in a high-line system, whilst it makes so many other defenders look bad and so many other defenders probably don't want to play in a high-line and high-pressing system, it actually makes Van der Ven look really good. So how would he fare under Thomas Frank? I think good, but I don't know if he'll be as good under a more defensive manager with not as high of a line as he was under Ange Postecoglou. Whereas Romero, I believe, will really excel under Thomas Frank. You look at him at Argentina when they play a bit of a lower block in big games, that's when he's at his best. That no-nonsense defender, a bit of a rock at the back. Whereas with the high line, he gets caught out so many times and he hasn't got the pace to catch up the attacker. So I think Romero will really excel. If he does move on this summer though, I think we'll go out there and sign another centre-back. But even if we don't, I think Danso will be fantastic under Thomas Frank. He's been good under Ange, but in a lower block, having that no-nonsense solid defender, as I say, he's like Ethan Pinnock, but better. So I think he'll really suit Thomas Frank. But the centre-back partnership I expect to see with our current players is Van der Ven and Romero. Fullbacks. Right back, I think, will change a lot. I really do. Spence is better when it comes to one-on-ones, but Porro is better going forward. And when you look at Frank's press conference earlier in the year when we beat them 2-0, he said Porro had Trentish qualities. He likes his fullbacks going up and down the wings. And I think Porro will be his main option. I really do. I think Porro will see a lot more balls over the top from him, a lot more balls forward than we did under Ange. We'd occasionally see them, but a lot of it was all about inverting into the midfield. We're not going to see any of that under Thomas Frank, I don't believe. Maybe very rarely on occasion, but I don't remember seeing Brentford inverting their fullbacks once in my time watching their games on the telly box. So I think Pedro Porro, as I say, will be the right back option. I think, what are his best attributes, right? Why did we sign him? Why did Conte want him? Conte wanted that wing back who was good at crossing, who could go up the pitch, and because he had that back three, he had cover. Now, he might not have that back three as often under Thomas Frank, but because it's a lower line, he's not going to get caught out as often. Whereas under Ange, it was simple for opposition. If you can win it off Spurs in transition, play it quickly to your right winger who's got pace, and Porro's nowhere near him because he's in the midfield, he'll be able to be out wide, and if you can't get to his man, you've got that double pivot in midfield, you've got that number 6, you've got the 2 centre-backs to cover. So I expect to see Porro, but I think just like Danzo occasionally coming in for Romero, I think he'll rotate quite a bit with Jed Spence. Left back, Udogie all day long. I don't expect to see Spence being played out of position at all. Maybe we could see, a left winger being moved to left back like he did with Keane Lewis Potter, but I think Udogie will be his option, just like for the reasons I mentioned with Porro. Good crosser of the ball going forward, bombing forward in wide areas. I think he'll be great. Then I look at the double pivot, right? I look at the players that Brentford have used. Norgard and Janel, 2 no-nonsense defensive midfielders who do their job, who sit in front of the back four, and one of them is sort of that box-to-box. Now, when I look at that box-to-box, who's the best player who can do that at Spurs? Bentancur. Bissouma on his day is fantastic, but there's no consistency. Bentancur as a box-to-box midfielder for me is our best player in that position. So I believe we'll see quite a bit of Bentancur under Thomas Frank. And I also think we'll see quite a bit of Zaha. I think he can really take up that Janelt role, sitting in front of the defence. If anyone's going forward, let it be the number 10 who's being the creative guy. Let it be Bentancur. He's got that work rate, which is something that Thomas Frank really looks out for. So midfield will rotate a lot, like a lot of this team. But when I'm thinking, what is Thomas Frank's ideal 11 going to be when everyone's fit? I think when you look at that double pivot, Zaha and Bentancur as the box-to-box, and Zaha as the holding mid, defensive mid. That's what I believe we'll go for. I still think we need that strong player, that Paulinho, that can really be that sort of Norgard. But yeah, looking at our current players, I think Bentancur and I think Zaha. The number 10 role. Did a lot of thinking on this, but I have gone with Dejan Kulusevski, right? Because Damsgaard, when you think of him as a player, extremely technical. And the first player you think of at Spurs who's got technical ability is James Maddison. But what Damsgaard's very good at doing is getting stuck in. He's got a real work rate. As much as he does the fancy stuff and the technically good stuff, he gets stuck in. He drives forward and he's got fantastic work rate. And as creative and great as Maddison can be, he doesn't really have that. He doesn't really have that work rate. He doesn't really get stuck in. He can't really drive with the ball. If you want to play it to him, you've got 3 options running forward. He'll find them. He'll pick them out. He's great at picking out that eye of the needle pass. But for me, I think Kulusevski will be his choice. I think Kulusevski's got that work rate that someone like a Damsgaard had at Brentford. And I think I'll expect to see quite a lot of him under Thomas Frank. He's praised him quite a lot in the past in press conferences. And yeah, I think just like all other positions will rotate. But Thomas Frank's best 11, using our current players that I believe will suit him the most, I think Kulusevski will suit him a little bit more than Maddison. So I believe when he's got all players fit, we'll see more of Kulu than Maddison in that number 10. Wingers. Matisse Tell on the left, I expect to see quite a lot. I think Tell so far at Spurs hasn't hugely impressed me. The occasional bright spark, but not a lot. We've signed him permanently. We've heard that Thomas Frank wants him. I think he could get the Tell that was starting off at Bayern. With that cover around him, as I say, the double pivot in front of him, and not having to hug the touchline, but being able to come in as an inside forward, as sort of a wide midfielder, I think that will suit Matisse Tell. I think a lot of wingers were strangled in that Ange Postecoglou system, hugging the touchline, and it was the fullbacks who went inside. For me, that's the wrong way round. It's the fullbacks out wide, the wingers or wide midfielders inside. So I think we'll see Tell quite a lot because we signed him. I think we do need a big signing, and I think heading into next season we'll have someone like an Eze, maybe an Mbermo or Visser or someone like that on the wing. But I think we'll see Matisse Tell. I also think we'll see Johnson. What's Johnson's biggest strength? Goal scoring. That's what Thomas Frank will focus on, in my opinion. With the double pivot, I don't think he'll be asking him to hug the touchline. I don't think he'll be asking him to do dog work in midfield. I think he'll be asking him to come in as an inside forward, and bury the opportunities that he's got. And I think that will really suit him. And then looking at the striker, now there's a chance that he could, play three wingers and one as sort of a striker and push them up the pitch like he did with Visser. But I look at the way that he used Ivan Toney, holding up the ball, getting forward, as I say, into good positions. I look at the way that he used Ollie Watkins. I look at the way that he uses these out-and-out number 9s. And I think it's a no-brainer that he's going to get a lot more out of Solanke than previous managers have. And I'm not just talking about Ange. I think he'll get more out of Solanke than Iraola did, because that was a high-pressing system in Iraola's side at Spurs. High pressing system. I think he'll have him as that poacher up top, but someone who can also come deep and hold the ball up. And I think we will see the best of Dominic Solanke under Thomas Frank. With the back five, the 5-2-3, maybe we see someone like a Bissouma come in with Sarr in the midfield, and I reckon the back three, maybe a Dragazin comes in as well. But the 4-2-3-1, using our current players, I believe the best 11 that would suit Thomas Frank the most right now would be Vicario, Porro, Van der Ven, Christian Romero, Destiny Udogie, Sarr and Bentancur in the double pivot, Kulusevski in the 10, Tellen Johnson on the wings, and Dominic Solanke as your number 9 up top. Guys, I'm going to make like a banana and split. Take care of yourselves. All the best. The weather's cooling down, but World War III is about to kick off, so stay safe out there. God bless you all, and as always, come on, you Spurs.